went back, Adam, and I pulled this because, you and I are old enough to have lived this firsthand when she was murdered along with Ron Goldman. For the young people listening, she was OJ's ex-wife. There had been a long history of domestic violence. And then she went out they had seen each other at a ballet rehearsal for her daughter that earlier that day. Something ticked him off. I don't know exactly what it was, but something about her got to him at that thing. It wasn't like they had some open conflict or she showed up with another man, even though they were already divorced. And he came to her house that night and murdered her. But he ran into Ron Goldman, who she had seen at a restaurant, and she had left her glasses behind. He was coming over to drop them back off to her. And he murdered them both. So said a civil jury. And they're forgetting how brutal the crime was, how it was in cold blood, right in the middle of the, mid-evening. And I went back and pulled, just so that people understand the severity of this guy, the 911 call, one of them, there were many, that shows her terror when he was abusing her. Take a listen here.
911 emergency.
Can you get someone over here now to 325 Gretna Green? He's back. Please.
Well, okay, what does he look like?
He's O.J. Simpson. I think you know his record. Could you just send somebody over here?
Okay, what is he doing there?
He just drove up again.
He just drove up
over.
Okay, wait a minute. What kind of car is he in?
He's in a white Bronco, but first of all, he broke the back door down to get in.
So what is he doing? Is he threatening you?
I'm going nuts.
Okay, has he threatened you in any way, or is he just harassing you?
You're going to hear him in a minute. He's about to come in again.
Okay, just stay on the line.
I don't want to stay on the line. He's going to beat the shit.
Wait a minute. Does he have any weapons?
I don't know.
Okay.
He went home, and now he's back.
Okay.
My kids are upstairs sleeping, and I don't want anything to happen.
Okay.
He broke the whole back door in.
And then he left and he came back?
And he came and he practically knocked my upstairs door down, but he pounded it, and then he screamed and hollered, and I tried to get him out of the bedroom because the kids were sleeping in there.
Okay, 325 South Gretna Greenway is too high. The suspect is now entered in the jail, and it is refusing to leave. It's code too high. It's been 4221. Just stay on the line, okay? Is he upset with something that you did?
Oh, a long time ago. It always comes back.
And Denise Brown, her sister, would go on to say, we have to start talking about domestic violence for what it is. These are future murder victims. These are potential future murder victims. That's what happened to her. And all these so-called, AP and the NPR, I'm sure they'd be quick to lecture us on women's rights and domestic violence and how bad men are in general. What? Unless you're O.J. Simpson and you happen to be a black man, in which case after 30 years, we'll just focus on your football.
Well, I mean, they always talk about women's rights and domestic abuse and stuff, but they don't really care. I mean, it's all that Queers for Palestine and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. They all just talk. They're not really interested in the actual abuse part, but it is, it's an interesting psychological experiment. OJ is in that he grew up in a housing project in San Francisco, and he grew up on the mean streets and probably ran in some pretty tough circles and probably saw a lot, was probably exposed to a lot, may have been abused and so on and so forth growing up. But his aesthetic was so pleasing. He had such a nice look to him, and his tone was so unarming and so pleasing that we as biological creatures sort of looked at him and went, oh, okay, he's good. He wouldn't put his hands on anybody. Listen to the way he speaks. Look at the way he looks. He just didn't fit the part. And we as human beings look at a guy like George Clooney, and we look at a fat guy with 3 chins and we go, I bet that George Clooney guy's a better guy. And I bet he'd make a better airline pilot than the fat guy would, based on completely just an aesthetic, and OJ had the aesthetic and he had the smoothness and literally just the tone of his voice and his demeanor. And it made us all kind of go like, come on, he's a good dude. He wouldn't do anything. But he grew up in a tough environment. He was an athlete. He probably was concussed a few times, and he had all the reasons to do what he did, as any murderer does. He just came in this sort of very palatable package.
Gosh, you're right. And yesterday we played a video of him from Instagram that he posted shortly before he died. It was like a month or two ago. And he still had that sort of jolly demeanor, very disarming, as you say. And that's what was so tricky about him. Like when you watch the clip, you think, oh, the juice, he's such a nice guy. He's clearly seeking our approval and our friendship and, our thumbs up. And you want to give it. And then you remember who he really was. I firmly believe he did something as profoundly evil as any man can do, and that he's paying for it at this very moment. Two other things on OJ. Weirdly, some in the media, this whole thing brought up Trump for them. Okay. First, the LA Times, the obit. Okay, first of all, the obit for OJ at most major media outlets would have been written long ago, should have been written long ago. They all, having worked at many television places, I can tell you that as you get into like your mid-70s, and certainly when people know you have prostate cancer, as they knew about OJ, you get it ready. You get the package ready, you get the obit ready. Apparently not at the LA Times, because their obit writer released the following in her initial piece. Long before the city woke up on a fall morning in 2017, Trump walked out of Lovelock Correctional Center outside Reno, a free man for the first time in 9 years. He didn't go far, moving into a 5,000 square foot home in Vegas with a Bentley in the driveway. Now, what on earth would make Elaine Wu, LA native who's been writing for this paper since 1983 and the obits writer, think of Trump when she decided to go back to OJ's criminal past? To me, it's evidence that she's salivating about the prospect of Trump being in a correctional facility someday soon. And when the LA Times had to correct her obit, they changed it from Trump to Simpson with a note saying in an earlier version, we used, quote, the wrong name when describing him. All right, that's number one. And then here's number two, a little clip from The View, who also managed to work Trump into it somehow.
For me, the tragedy was the injustice, in my opinion.
Which part? Which injustice?
The criminal trial. The fact that he was not found guilty.
Oh, yeah.
But he was found liable later,
yes,
civilly.
Like Trump is found liable for rape.
Yes, he was
It's the same thing.
Well, everything goes back to Trump.
Until he's gone, I will not rest.
Liable for sexual assault.
Same thing, Trump and OJ, basically looking at the same situation.
Well, to be fair to the LA Times staff writer, in the LA Times computers, that's just a spell correct. Anytime you're writing a hit piece or about someone nefarious, it just autocorrects to Trump. So if you're telling a story about Bismarck or Pol Pot or Hitler, it autocorrects to Trump. So if you're writing a story about Jeffrey Dahmer or Charles Manson, it will just come up with Trump.
Debt. You can go to bed thinking about it and you can wake up thinking about it too. Here's the truth. The system traps you in debt. High interest credit cards and loans then make it nearly impossible to pay off the debt you have accumulated. And then insane inflation keeps you stuck paycheck to paycheck. It's just this ongoing cycle. Done with Debt can be your lifeline. Done with Debt has an ingenious new strategy to help erase your debt faster and easier than you ever thought possible. Done with Debt will analyze all the debt options that you qualify for. They know how to reduce bills and how to cut interest rates. They're a skilled staff of negotiators. They know how to get debt out of your life permanently without bankruptcy and without a loan. Done with Debt has experts who can share with you strategies for eliminating debt. But you do need to hurry because some debt solutions are time sensitive. Here's how easy they make it. Go to donewithdebt.com. So easy to remember. Donewithdebt.com. Donewithdebt.com. Check it out. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.